Welcome back, it's me, Lou. Alright, for today's video, just to warn you in advance, this is not going to be a full unboxing and review. We're going to review this figure as is, sealed in its box. The reason why is because this figure is a repaint, and I've already reviewed a Master Chief, which is pretty much the same sculpt. So, just go into my library of videos and just hunt down that video. But otherwise, I just want to go over this figure sealed in the box. Okay, so what we have here is we have Master Chief from the Spartan collection. But the one thing that caught my eye about this figure when I saw this in the store is that this is Master Chief as he appears in Halo 2. Halo 2, for me, it's kind of like... It's not like the definitive Halo game, but... I kind of felt that with Halo 2, that's when Master Chief and the Halo property kind of just like became this giant juggernaut. And I'll always have fond memories of the day Halo 2 came out. I remember going to I'm not sure if it was still Electronics Boutique or if it was EB Games. But I remember going to the shop that morning when the game came out. And I remember buying the game and also buying the strategy guide. And I just have such fond memories of playing multiplayer. And just the campaign, I had the game on my Xbox, and then I even had Halo 2 on my laptop. And then whenever I'd travel, I always remember just playing Halo 2 on the plane. So I have such fond memories of Halo 2. So the minute this figure was in the stores, immediately it tugged at my nostalgia strings, and I'm like, I gotta get this. This represents Master Chief in Halo 2, and I couldn't say no. So what we have here is Master Chief as he appears in Halo 2. It looks cool, to be honest. The shade of green I kind of have an issue with, but I do love the really bright gold visor. It really takes me back to that time period. The window does a great job, much like all the Spartan collection, of framing the figures and all the accessories. You have multiple hands, so you have different options. If you want a closed fist, you have a closed fist. If you want a weapon hand, you have a weapon hand. If you want a C grip, you have a C grip. It's really cool. So we have Halo, the Spartan Collection, Master Chief from Halo 2, and his accessories. He comes with his Mjolnir Mark 6 Generation 1 armor, dual M7 SMGs, and additional hands. Now, this figure, I'm not 100% sure if it's a completely reused Master Chief. So that's why I have this guy here. We're going to do a little bit of a comparison. So this is one of the more recent Master Chiefs. This is Master Chief as he appears in Halo Infinite, the new game. And the big giveaway with that is that he comes with the grapple shot here. So when I first saw this in the stores, I immediately thought that it was a simple repaint of this guy. But now that I'm handling him in hand, that's not the case. This is a complete, I'm not sure if it's 100% new sculpt, but there's a lot of differences here. For one, the helmet designs appear to be different. If you compare the mouthpieces, this one has a much narrower mouth than this one. Likewise, this one here, the visor is a lot taller. The brim of the visor appears to be a little bit thicker. And then once you start getting to the chest area is when you'll start noticing the differences. The much more modern Master Chief, the armor, the detailing, the sculpting is a lot crisper. There's a lot more details, a little bit more panel lines. Especially once you start traveling down towards the chest area right here, there's a little bit more layers, a little bit more tiers. So the detail around this area is a lot more pronounced, a lot more detailed. Whereas on this one here, the detailing here is a little bit more bare minimum. If you were to think of it in terms of video game terms, this figure looks like it's made up of less polygons than this one. This looks to be like a much more high poly character in terms of video game design, whereas this one looks a little bit more flat and looks to be made of less polygons. if you were to think of it in terms of like, you know, this like video game jargon. So if you look at their torsos carefully, you can see the differences. You know, even when you travel towards near the crotch area, around the waist, there's different detailing. Same with the legs. So yeah, this is a very cool figure. It's kind of cool that they paid homage to like Halo 2 and gave us a figure of Master Chief. I've kind of lost track of all the different figures in the Halo collection, so I'm not sure if they actually gave us the original Master Chief as he appears in the first Halo game. But I have such fond memories of the armor from the second game. And speaking of Halo 2, here's another figure. This is considerably a lot older. I believe this figure came out maybe in 2002 or 2001. This one's made by Joyride Studios. I've talked about this figure in previous videos. So this figure represents Master Chief from Halo 2, and for me, this is kind of like the definitive Master Chief figure for that generation. The figure engineering on this figure is already outdated, but you know, for what we got back then, I thought it was really well done. I do like this shade of green more than this one. Like, I do realize that this is supposed to represent Master Chief in Halo 2, but if you were to see this figure in person, the green it's almost like a neon green. It's too bright. Whereas this one is just the right shade. It looks great. And when I think of Halo 2, I immediately think of this image right here. This was used a lot in the marketing, and this is the cover to the, this is the actual strategy guide to Halo 2. This is one of those things that really takes me back. You know, we're in a very different age nowadays in terms of video games. You know, if you grew up during this time period, it was very different. It's kind of fun too. You know, you'd go into like an EB Games or Electronics Boutique on day one, and then, you know, if you went in to buy Halo 2, the guy behind the counter, they'd always try to sell you the strategy guide. Like, you know what, you need the strategy guide. And for me, I'm always a sucker for the strategy guide just because I love the photography and the artwork, so I'd always just cave in and buy it. So for me, this is like the most iconic image of like Master Chief that always springs to mind whenever I think of Master Chief. You know, here he is dual wielding. And if you look, there's some beautiful artwork in here. Yeah, it was a very different time, you know, for video games. You know, we're in a much different place now. I miss the era of strategy guides. They were always so fun. You know, it was always cool to get them and crack them open. You know, like, in some ways it could be a spoiler. In other ways it was, you know, maybe after you completed a level, you could look back at this and see what you missed. But yeah, this is really cool. I like this a lot. So, you know, for me, this figure, it does a good job of getting the armor down, but the color scheme is just horrible. It's too bright. You know, I kind of wish it'd be a little bit more drab like this. This feels like it's the right color scheme for the Halo 2 figure. I do love the gold on the visor, though. I think that looks great. But at the same time, when you compare it to the much more modern version of Master Chief, it's like the differences are like night and day. You know, you really feel like you're getting more with your money with this guy than this. This feels very, like, bare bones. But this is a figure, I think, for people that are like me. You know, if you came up during this time period, you know, if you were there with Master Chief Halo 2 on day one, this is something that might appeal to you. Yeah, I think it's pretty neat. All right, so let's talk about whether or not this is a must purchase. You know, if you're a much more like modern gamer or younger gamer, and you know, if you grew up with Halo the last maybe like 10 years, you know, this figure here is probably this is probably more your speed. If you're a much more grizzled veteran of the Halo Wars, this figure is, you know, a nice piece of nostalgia. So I think if you're like from my age or my generation, you know, this might be something worth picking up just for, like, you know, this is like a little piece of your own history and your time gaming and your adventures with Master Chief. Alright, so, this kind of wraps up this video. Like I said, this was kind of much more of a mint on card review. I apologize in advance if you're looking for something a little bit more detailed. If you are, just go through my YouTube library. I do a review on this guy that's pretty in-depth. Alright, so let's wrap this video up. Once again, my name is Lou. Thank you so much for checking out this video. If you are new to my channel, welcome. If you are a returning viewer subscriber, thank you so much for your continued likes, comments, and support. I greatly appreciate it. Until the next video, take care of yourself, be safe, buy lots of toys, and most importantly, be happy. And I will talk to you at the next one. Later.